Going down, it's your boy Juicy J. My hustle is our hustle, man. That's what you're watching right now. It's going down.
Poppin', Kendrick Lamar, my dude Rambo. Our hustle. Yeah.
Welcome back to the Hip Hop Report. This is Rambo Hustle, and today we'll be discussing the Rick Ross album, Set in Stone. Now, of course, Rick Ross is no stranger to the beef, the drama, the gossip, and social media marketing in more ways than one. Now, I do feel like that sometimes hurts his music because, let's face it, Rick Ross is a great rapper. He is maybe one of the most polished ears we've had in the last 10, 15 years in regards to production, giving us production super talent. Like, I think he worked with 1500, but more importantly, Justice League and Cool and Dre. Through the product of what became the Miami music scene with adopted talent such as Fat Joe, French Montana, and even Lil Wayne. Hell, little Baby E, which y'all know about Baby E. But the Miami scene became flooded with Southern talent, East Coast talent, and a sound that took over the industry for close to half a decade. Now, Rick Ross was at the forefront of that, not only the face of that, but even more often than not, the sound and the voice behind the scenes of that culture. Now, of course, records like what they were creating with Bad Boy, in a line with DJ Khaled in Miami, gave us tons of classics. So there's no surprise to me that even to this point, Rick Ross still has an ear for these records. Now, some of these records still work. Some of them sound kind of played out and repetitive, and some just no. For example, on the opener, Caviar Bumps is an amazing record with polished production, like I said before, where Rick Ross takes his standard go-to flow and delivers an amazing intro that reminds us who we're dealing with. And even though it is a CO, it's also a great rapper. And you guys accepted him, so I'm not here to justify or to cancel anybody for what they've done before. All I know is the man's got records, he can rap, and that's kind of where we're at. Now, this is followed by Mahogany Caskets featuring with T.I., record that we had already heard before, one of the singles. Again, the music video, very dramatic, very cinematic, and something that kind of lets you know that he felt very strongly about the album, because you don't put out a visual like this unless you feel like you have something really dynamic. Now, for me, on this record, I'm still picking out the ones that I really felt were standout records. I love Mahogany Caskets because the beat is crazy, and of course I think T.I. does a great job of once again delivering elite lyrical performance, and I wouldn't expect him to do anything less for Ross. Now, on top of that, we got Minx in Miami, the record that hit #1 on urban radio, alongside Max B and French Montana, which, by the way, French Montana impresses me quite often. He even has a line on this record where he says, I did the worst things for the right reasons. And I think somebody like French Montana is the last person you would expect to give you a game like that. But it was such a deep line in this record, Minx in Miami, that you wouldn't even think you would get something that that vulnerable as far as like a lyrical from this record. But it does hit home, because I do feel like, especially in the urban world, in communities in low-income communities and minority communities, we do have a survival instinct that puts us in positions where we maybe aren't morally all in on what this thing is, but for us to make it to where we want to be, for us to achieve this set goal, this vision of what I see my life becoming, this seems like a decision that can maybe get me there or get me closer to that. And I think specifically in the youth, and with hip hop obviously being such a youth-driven genre throughout the decades, it's really easy for kids to get blinded by what they see and what they see rappers rap about and what they see them championing, and think, I have to get that by any means necessary. And I think that line, even in the midst of what this record is, that's not a deep record, it's not a conscious record, I still get this one particular line that really takes me there. Is the third verse coming back? This is like the third album I've seen that rappers are giving us a third, sometimes even a fourth verse, and creating records that are substantially longer, almost twice as long as what we've seen in the past. Now, I wonder where that's coming from. I wonder if that's a label decision to allow these records to go through, or there is a just artistic decision that's happening where people are willing to speak more about what they want to say on a record and not really so concerned with the impact that it has, or what the numbers mean, or what any of these things. I think the concept of celebrity dying is also accompanied by the concept of numbers being less of an important metric in almost any sense. Now, Face Down is interesting because I hear Future, but it's not Future, and part of me says, why not just get Future? And that's no offense to Rich the Kid. I just personally, I feel like this is his sound. There's things that I can recognize Rich the Kid doing that I know is Rich the Kid. But this sound right here, if you put Future doing this record starts off in an entirely different tone and has a lot more punch to it. Which makes me wonder why Future isn't on this album. After all, Ross and Future have almost 7 or 8 different records. I looked it up last night after I listened to the album for the first time, and I thought, damn, that's a lot of collaborations. I wonder what happened. But on top of that, Face Down is just one of my favorite Boosie songs. I mean, if you're going to listen to Boosie, it might as well be turned up Boosie. On the back end, for some reason, there's just nothing. Which I'm just confused about because, I mean, it's not like the production is this incredible standout thing, but give me something. Give me audio. Give me Dion Cole talking on here some more. He only did the one record, intro and outro. So, I mean, you know, and I thought that was great. I thought that was a really well done skit. As far as skits goes, it's hard to do that because if it's too contrived, if it's too acted, then it comes off corny. Now, Ring Around the Rose with YFN Lucci is a great idea, but to me, it's a little bit too soon in the album. We're still kind of hype. We're still moving things in the right direction, and suddenly, boom, nothing. And then you have this incredible line from Lucci. I'll be really slamming these bitches like Hulk Hogan. Maybe not the best reference. But I did love this line from Ross where he says, being jealous of women, that's what we separate. And you can even hear Ross's flow and how you say that because the pocket and the verbiage just lands right in that perfect pocket. What about this line where he says, is this why he wasn't at the Jay-Z concert? Because that sounds like a Jay-Z dig. But maybe that's just me. Now on Camel Meat, we actually get our first appearance on the skit from Dion Cole. He also closes out the record. And personally, I love this. I love this skit, and I thought it was funny. The concept of Rick Ross just leaving a car at his house is crazy. And then on the outro, when he's telling him to only leave him one girl because last time he left him too many girls and they started stealing shit like his shoes and a shoe sole. That shit was mad funny. But I also noticed that for someone with no influence, this song sounds a lot like, Song Cry. Maybe one of the best, deepest, most emotional records that Jay-Z's ever made. And not only that, but a part of the Blueprint album sequence. So you tell me what's really going on. Because I heard a Jay-Z shot, and then I heard a Jay-Z reference. So is Song Cry referencing to a relationship issue between Hove and Rick Ross? Maybe. Now, Maybach Music 6 has quite a bit of history because Maybach Music is Rick Ross's label. But as much anticipation as that title may give you, that intro will kill your vibe. Again, slowing it down too much until Don Toliver comes in and saves the day. And if it's not for Don Toliver, this record's a dud. But he just has one of those voices that really remind me of what The Weeknd was when we first heard him during the Balloons era. And everything that he was doing sonically and with his vocals. Not saying they sound alike, but what they're doing musically is in its own lane in the way that The Weeknd's was, where no one else is doing this quite like this. And you could say Gunna, but he's also a snitch. So I think we can go Don Toliver over Gunna at this point. Everybody in? And this line caught my attention. Boy, I've been the nicest since before you had a license. You still buying rhymes. I could sue you for my likeness. Ross is taking shots at someone who doesn't write their own records. And I don't know if the internet's speculating or not, but that's what he said. And that's what he said. Now, I do feel like Don should have had an intro on this record to kind of build up the anticipation for him to come back on the back end. But at the end, we get Jeezy, and then the record comes to complete. A full 180 from what that intro, whatever that was, no. But with Jeezy and Don Toliver here, it really saves the day and brings us one of the most standout records on the project. Especially with lines like, I had him singing Trap or Die in a bow tie, referring to his Las Vegas residence. Now, Living Large had a lot of potential because I'm a huge 8-Ball MJG fan, and I knew exactly what the sample was the second that this came on, and a second later, I was absolutely disappointed. Personally, I think the Mr. Big record is too hard and too legendary to try to paint it in any other picture. I would have remixed it and had 8-Ball MJG on the record as features, which honestly, they are super underrated when it comes to features. I think more rappers should be reaching out to 8-Ball and MJG to do joint features on their verses because they absolutely don't miss. And with this one, I think Ross misses. I think even the concept of what he flipped it to didn't really work. I would maybe go with Do It Big or something that you can really lean into your victory raps into. But you know, as far as for me, it didn't work because Mr. Big was a playoff 8-Ball size. It created a sense of confidence in what he probably felt was him just calling himself out for being oversized, but then saying it's fine because I'm still cocky and confident. Now, Purple Fentanyl is an old Watch the Throne ass beat. Now, even though it's super tone deaf to even have this record called this in the first place, I would have at least put DJ Paul on it. That would have made it sound better and not made it sound so forced, because that's what it sounds like. You're never beating the allegations with titles like this. Or lines like staring at a bitch ass like a peephole. Gross. But not as forced as this Porsche record. And why, honestly? Why are we trying to create this sound? Why is Rick Ross trying to appeal to anything besides the fan base that he already has? I think this is super outside of Ross's bag, and I don't even appreciate that he tried it, because somebody should have been in a studio letting him know that this ain't it. This does not sound good. This does not fit your sound, and no. That's why you need the Hip Hop Report, because we'll give you feedback so you don't put out bullshit. The Dream comes in on City Lights and makes you forget all about whatever you just heard, because as he's been doing for the last month or so with his album and on T.I.'s feature, he's just been destroying everything. And you know, one thing about people that know music and know sound and know the difference between great, good, and shit is that they put out great work. And if they put it out, it's because they, in their mind, knew that this sounded great. It's not that hard, but it's not that easy. I do think the title is a little bit too catered to like current lingo, and it seems a little bit too processed, like processed meat. But the record in itself, it's okay. It's a good record, and I wouldn't expect anything less from The Dream and Ross on the record together. Now we get Chain of Command, a record that Rick Ross jumps on this I don't like the look of this type of beat. If you guys remember the Gutta Gutta Lil Wayne record beat, that was Jalil Beats on that, and that record was stupid crazy. What happened to Gutta Gutta? You guys know? Now, this feature from Nino Breeze is interesting, and it takes a minute to kind of warm up to it. But by the time he gets to the second part of that verse, Nino Breeze was fucking sliding through all over this beat. And I was really impressed with his feature. And I don't think anybody has to detail or point out who Big Tony is. I think we know exactly who Big Tony is. You know, and this reminds me of this video that I saw earlier this week where this guy said,
it's barely a classic. It's
Barely?
It's barely.
Barely.
You want to know why?
Please tell me why on the front page, baby.
I'm going to look directly. It's the...
Yes.
The features
I will agree.
Ass, nigga. Oh,
I will agree.
God rest his soul. What was the nigga name? Big Sick, Big Sight?
Is that I got keys
That
coming
nigga,
from overseas.
He got ass.
Cost a nigga 200 G's and some shit like that.
When
I think that was the homie
when
that
that
said
nigga passed
shit.
away, God was like, I don't know. You questionable just off the way that he rapped.
now, where I normally would just agree with that, because I think if we look at it from the stance that everyone looks at everything now, which is who are these guys, then yeah, what are these guys doing on this album that's supposed to be a classic, and who are these guys, and they are nobody. But that's just not the lens that I look at things through, because one thing about those verses is y'all know every word to them. So if you know every word to them, doesn't that even more so validate All Eyes on Me as a classic? If you have absolute people that you've never heard of since or now or ever on this album, and you know those verses word for word, That says something about the music. That says something about Tupac as an artist and what he meant to people. We didn't care who was rapping on those records because this is a Tupac record, and there's no way any of these records are coming on and I'm not going to know every word. Now, shockingly enough, we get a Leon Thomas feature on this project, which lets you know that R&B acts are not abiding by beef and rap rules at all, because he was just on 50 Cent's Origins theme song just a few months ago. Now he's on this, and maybe one of the most successful years as far as like, he had a crazy buzz last year, but I think this year he's starting to plant the seeds with different artists that are going to scale his name into absolute stratosphere. I could see him kind of hitting that Giveon lane and maybe tapping into pop later, but I think what he's doing now is more Anthony Hamilton than anything else. And he even has that mysterious like mystique thing about him where you don't know too much about him. But musically, Leon Thomas is top tier, one of the best singers rising in the ranks as far as like R&B and soul music right now for sure. Now, following this, we get Big Fish with Big Gucci, and maybe this is our answer to why Rick Ross wasn't at the Jay-Z show. Maybe this is our answer why Rick Ross is taking Epstein list shots and saying things that maybe aren't landing for everybody. Because, I mean, I'm noticing it, but are you guys noticing it? Are you guys picking up on this rift under the radar? And maybe in the span of that is why Rick Ross doubled back and tried to make amends with Drake after he said everything he said, because he realized, oh shit, I'm not in the club either. Now I like this line. I took an oath when I was young that I would never tell. Gucci said that. Yeah, that Gucci. Now Diamonds Never Die leaves me with one question. Where's John Legend? I'm confused as to why we're getting bottom tier talent doing parts that could be top tier talent. And to me, that's a reflection of budget. To me, that's a reflection of connections that are no longer connected. And that's why I'm asking the questions that I'm asking. Another question that I have is, She's My Star with Young Miami. Isn't one song of the summer enough? And also, why are school groups called boosters? If booster means, never mind. As well as Do It One Time, where honestly I could hear Trick Daddy on this, but more than anything, I feel like this is a Drake record. I feel like Rick Ross is trying to emulate Drake's style. And this is not the first time I've heard this, but this one stands out more than anything because this doesn't sound like a booty twerking contest to you? And of course, we finished with The Last Jab, The Algorithm, clearly a record aimed at taking some of the attention from that word away from 50 Cent, which that's supposed to be 50's brand new album, and Mano released a record called The Algorithm this summer when they were beefing also. So there is an undercurrent of beef here, both from here to 50, and also somehow with Hove and Ross, where I'm not really seeing the pattern or exactly why this would have happened, but I feel like there's something brewing there's something brewing in the undercurrent, and I can't imagine that it's for no reason. With the Hip Hop Report, this is Rambo Hustle. Make sure to hit like and subscribe on the YouTube and hit play on Rick Ross's Set in Stone. Let us know what your favorite records are, and we will be posting them this week. Cheers.
Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel. If you want the latest and greatest, do it for the